My ex-boyfriend humiliated me in front of his friends and left me with an expensive bill. Later, I discovered he had lied about his job and life. My boyfriend called me ugly in front of his friends and ditched me in a restaurant, leaving me to pay for our meal. As he walked away, he exclaimed, "A girl like you should be grateful I even dated you." I smiled and patiently waited. This morning, my phone exploded with 13 missed calls. You know, I am still processing what happened last weekend. I keep reliving it in my thoughts, wondering whether I dreamt the entire thing. But nope, my maxed out credit card and ice cream smears on my couch prove it was real. For reference, I'd been dating Ryan for 2 years. 2 years. Not just a casual fling or whatever. We had the entire routine down, Sunday Netflix marathons, awkward holiday meals with both families, and even that bizarre couples yoga class he insisted on trying, which we both were terrible at, to be honest. Things were not perfect with us, are they ever? But I assumed we were solid. We had discussed moving in together this summer. He had these little bothersome habits, like leaving his socks all over the place, texting while watching movies, and offering helpful comments about my appearance. Things like, "That shirt makes your arms look bigger," etc. "Have you thought about trying a different hairstyle?" I always dismissed it as him being honest. Gee, past me was such an admirer. So last Friday, Ryan texted me about a meal with several coworkers. He had never really included me in his job life before, always claiming it was unprofessional or whatnot, so I was actually excited. I even went shopping for a new outfit, damn my budget, and spent hours getting ready. I'm talking about an entire YouTube makeup instruction, the pricey straightener I only use on special occasions, and the works. I arrive at this highly pricey downtown restaurant with little portions and no prices on the menu. Red flag number 1. Ryan has already arrived, accompanied by 2 coworkers, Leonard and Pablo. There's a strange vibe that greets me as I approach. Ryan barely recognizes me. Only a half stand from his chair and a brief, "You're late." I was only 2 minutes late because parking was tough. As I sit down, he notices my attire and asks, "Oh, you wore that?" Not quietly, either. His companions exchanged this look, and I could feel my cheeks becoming hot. For the record, I was wearing a dark blue dress that I thought was attractive. Nothing outrageous or inappropriate. I try to shrug it off, saying, "Is there a clothing code I missed?" But he just shrugs and says they've already ordered appetizers. Cool. Ryan spends the next hour chatting about work topics that I don't comprehend while his friends nod along. When I try to join the conversation, Ryan either speaks over me or explains why I'm wrong about what I just stated. When I mention a customer at my store, Ryan interrupts with, "She doesn't really get how things work in the real business world." He brushes me off as if retail isn't a genuine job. I have been a manager for 3 years. I'm sitting there, growing increasingly uncomfortable, wondering if Ryan has always been this condescending and I simply didn't notice, or if he's playing off for his friends. Either way, it's not a good appearance. Leonard then asks how we met. I begin relaying the story of how his coworker, Vanessa, my best friend, introduced us. Ryan interrupts me in mid-sentence and says, "Yes, Vanessa felt horrible for her. I was doing a favor, really." Then laughs. You guys, my stomach actually sank. That is not even close to how things happened. Vanessa had warned me about Ryan's ego before we met, but she assured me that he was a wonderful guy underneath. Spoiler, he wasn't. I excuse myself to the bathroom, partly to avoid crying in front of them. I'm in the stall, texting Vanessa, like, "What is going on?" When I receive a message that Ryan has just tagged himself at this eatery on Instagram. With a boys' night out. Like I'm not even present. Vanessa calls me right away, but I send her to voicemail because I don't want the boys to hear me cry. I spray some water on my face, touch up my makeup, and give myself a sad little pep talk in the mirror about getting through dinner with dignity. When I return to the table, everyone is laughing over something, but it immediately stops when I sit down. Awesome. The server brings our main meals, and Ryan starts making comments about my food selection. I picked spaghetti, one of the less expensive selections, because I was already concerned about the amount. He keeps saying things like, "Carb loading for a marathon?" And, "That's a bold choice for someone with your body type." Each comment seems like a small paper cut, and they build up quickly. At this point, I'm barely eating, simply moving food around my plate and counting down the minutes till I can leave. Then Pablo asks Ryan about a presentation, and Ryan goes on to tell him how his employer loved his ideas and that he is now in charge of the entire project. Something clicks in my brain. Ryan had been worried about this presentation the week before, claiming that his segment was only 5 minutes long and that he was frightened. Is he suddenly a star? It's as if he lives in an alternate reality where he is the primary character. Then the bill arrives. The waiter places it on the table, and Ryan takes it, looks at it for a moment, and then slides it across to me. I believe he's just showing me the sum, but then he says, and I'll never forget this. You know what? I don't think this is working. I stare at him, waiting for the punchline. There isn't one. I've been trying to make this work, but I'm just not attracted to you anymore. I think we should break up. In the center of a restaurant. In front of his friends. After 2 years together. Who does this? I'm taken entirely by surprise. Are you serious right now? This is how you want to do this? He stands up, gets his jacket and says, I still get a knot in my gut just thinking about it. A girl like you should be grateful I even dated you this long. You're not exactly a prize. Then he and his companion simply left. They all left together, laughing. I was left with a $347 charge for their dumb Wagyu appetizers and pricey beverages. The waiter approached with an expression of sadness that made everything 1,000 times worse. I paid the bill with my credit card, which I'm still paying off from Christmas, great, and managed to get to my car without completely falling apart. I called Vanessa from the parking lot, crying so hard that she couldn't understand me at first. She arrived at my apartment with a pint of Ben & Jerry's and a bottle of wine, the actual MVP. Between ugly crying and stress-eating cookie dough, I told her everything. She was furious. I had to talk her out of driving to Ryan's house and raising a disturbance. That's when she went odd. She kept asking questions about what Ryan had said about work, the project he mentioned, his position within the organization. Sabrina, I don't know how to tell you this, but Ryan isn't who he says he is at work. Ryan isn't a hotshot marketing guy going to get promoted. He works as an assistant, making coffee runs and scheduling meetings. All the business trips? Complete fabrications. What about the major presentation? He was only preparing the slides for the actual team. What is the fancy title on his LinkedIn? Complete fiction. I felt like an idiot. For 2 years, he had been lying about almost everything, and I never questioned it. What else had he lied about? That night, when Vanessa had left, I went into full investigative mode. I went back over our text messages, photos, everything. There were so many contradictions that I had missed. Comments regarding money that did not add up. He had to work late several times, although his location indicated that he was across town. I could not sleep. I kept revisiting that moment in the restaurant, how little he made me feel. How ashamed I felt. I received a text message from an unknown number about 3 a.m. Hey, it's Cody from Ryan's office. Vanessa gave me your number. There's some stuff you should know. That's when things became really intriguing. First update. First and foremost, I want to express my gratitude to everyone who left positive comments on my previous post. I cried while reading several of them, in a good way. Many of you requested an update, so here's what happened next in this totally insane incident. So, after learning from Cody, who works with Ryan, that my partner of 2 years had been living in a dream world of his own making, I spent the following few days in a terrible post-breakup fog. You know the one. You alternate between bawling into a pint of ice cream and furiously scrolling through old images, wondering if any of it was genuine. My apartment resembled a catastrophe zone. The dishes piled up. Laundry is everywhere. Approximately 7 empty DoorDash bags because cooking seemed difficult. The hardest part was that I kept thinking of humorous things to text Ryan, only to remember what had happened. And it felt like getting discarded all over again. My mind was practically trapped in a loop of did that really happen? How didn't I see this coming? I'd also avoided social media since I knew Ryan's posts would be irritating. But on Wednesday morning, I surrendered and checked Instagram. Sure enough, Ryan was there, with a gym selfie. Captioned, "Level up. Know your worth." The arrogance. I almost flung my phone across the room. Vanessa came over that evening with takeout and discovered me wrapped in my comforter, like a melancholy burrito. She's been fantastic throughout this whole affair, making sure I eat actual food, listening to me whine about the same things again and over, and never saying "I told you so," despite her misgivings about Ryan from the start. While we were dining, Vanessa showed me her texts with Cody. Apparently, they had been talking a lot. He had tea to spill. According to Cody, Ryan had been telling everyone at work that he dumped me because I was needy and always discussed marriage. What? I did not create the Pinterest board, Future Home Ideas. Yes. Ryan actually owned one of these. He claimed it was research for a job assignment. Then Cody dropped the real bomb. Ryan wasn't simply lying about his job title. He was currently on probation for taking credit for other people's work, and he might be dismissed shortly. All those late nights spent working? He was hurriedly trying to correct errors before anyone noticed. Business trips? Complete fiction. I was still processing everything when my phone rang. It was Tina, Ryan's mother. I almost didn't respond. Awkward, but I decided to be mature about it. Tina has always been quite nice to me, as in, she remembers my birthday and asks me questions about my life. She sounded anxious and inquired whether everything was fine between me and Ryan. Apparently, he informed his family that we had a minor altercation but everything was great. A small fight. The man publicly humiliated me, deserted me in front of his buddies, and left me with a large debt. I attempted to be vague, claiming we were taking up space because I didn't want to place her in the middle. Then she brought up Ryan's birthday dinner on Saturday. And how my entire family was looking forward to seeing me there. You guys. I almost choked on my lo mein. Ryan informed his family we were still together. And that I planned to attend his birthday dinner. The supper was held at his parents' place. And apparently, he informed them that we had major news to share. After hanging up, I sat there stunned, as Vanessa looked at me as if I had grown a second head. She questioned whether he was insane or a pathological liar. Honestly, I wondered the same thing. That's when we devised the plan. I was not going to just ignore his family. They had always been friendly to me. And they deserved to know Ryan's true character. But I wasn't going to make a scene or be vengeful. I would simply attend the meal as invited and let the facts unfold spontaneously. Cody and I met for coffee the next day. We had only met through Ryan, so it was rather weird, but he turned out to be pretty nice. He validated everything and provided additional information about Ryan's work. The team Ryan claimed to lead. Actually, it's just him and 2 interns. What about the major presentation he oversaw last month? He was only managing the slideshow while his boss spoke. Cody appeared genuinely concerned on my behalf, claiming that Ryan's stories about me had always felt odd. Ryan apparently came to work saying that I was high maintenance, despite the fact that I was paying for the majority of our dates at the end. Because Ryan stated he was between paychecks. I noticed he had poor money management skills. Midway during our chat, Cody received a text from their boss asking if he could come in on Saturday evening to assist with an emergency project. Cody was disappointed since he had plans. But then I got an idea. What if Cody needed to drop off something at Ryan's parents' house during his birthday dinner? The timing would be ideal. As we were working out the specifics, my phone rang with a text from Ryan. First since the restaurant incident. It simply said, "We need to talk about what happened." I might have overreacted. Might have? I showed Cody, and he almost spit out his coffee. Overreacted is when you get annoyed about someone being late, he told me. Not when you publicly humiliate your girlfriend of 2 years and stick her with a $300 bill. I did not respond. Allow him to sweat. The following 2 days were a whirlwind of preparation. I was not going to this meal unprepared. I went over previous texts and discovered all the lies, dates that he claimed to be at work, conferences that did not exist. Cody verified that the stories about coworkers were all fake. Ryan posted images of himself from work events that were actually downloaded off the company website. Vanessa came over on Friday night to assist me choose an outfit. I'm not going to lie, part of me wanted to show up looking fantastic simply to spite him. But we thought that the ideal way was to look attractive without appearing to try too hard. We chose a plain black outfit that Ryan previously claimed made me seem average, which I now realize was his strange negging attempt. Because I always received compliments when I wore it. I barely slept Friday night. What if this backfires? What if his family supported him? What if I froze and couldn't go ahead with it? By Saturday I'd eaten my nails down to nothing and mentally run through around 17 situations. Around midday, Ryan texted again. Looking forward to seeing you tonight. Wear something nice. My parents are excited. I did not respond to that either. Allow him to think what he wants. I spent the afternoon getting ready, feeling a strange mix of anxiety and anticipation. Vanessa helped me with my hair and gave me a pep talk when I started to lose confidence. At 5:30, I got into my car and drove to his parents' house. I had to pull over once because my hands were too shaky to drive securely. I sat for a minute, doing breathing exercises from a meditation app I got months ago but never used. What was I doing? Was this crazy? Maybe I should just block Ryan on everything and live my life normally. But then I remembered him sitting there at his birthday dinner, undoubtedly telling everyone a fabricated version of our relationship. Perhaps even making himself the victim. My determination hardened. I arrived at his parents' house around 6:15. Fashionably late. Which I knew would irritate Ryan. Several automobiles were already parked in the driveway. It appeared that the entire family was present. I checked my cosmetics in the rearview mirror, took one final deep breath, and headed to the door. Ryan's father opened it with a bright smile and a hug, leading me inside. The home smelled like Tina's delicious pot roast. I experienced a brief moment of sadness. I really liked Ryan's family. And this would probably be the final time I saw them. I rounded the corner and entered the living room. Ryan was there, drink in hand. He was in the middle of laughing at something his cousin had said. He froze when he saw me. He clearly did not expect me to show up, despite what he told his family. The look on his face was priceless, to be honest. Panic flared across his features for a brief moment before he calmed down and approached. With a phony smile, he hugged me tightly and murmured, "You actually came. We need to talk privately." I simply smiled and said, loud enough for all to hear, "I wouldn't miss your birthday for anything. Especially since you've been telling everyone we had big news to share." His face lost its color. Tina clasped her hands happily and asked if this was what she expected. Ryan's sister sent me a knowing look. His father started joking about finally having grandchildren. Ryan held my elbow too tightly and attempted to steer me down the corridor. But his mother yelled out that dinner was ready and that everyone should sit down. We all took our places around the dining table, with Ryan warily monitoring my every move. Cody sent me a text message. "On my way. 15 minutes out." Ryan leaned down and hissed, "What are you doing here?" I thought after the restaurant. I simply smiled nicely and said, loud enough for anyone to hear, "Oh, I wouldn't miss the chance to tell your family about what happened at that restaurant, Ryan. I'm sure they'd love to hear that story." The look of complete dread on his face when his mother began bringing out the meal. It was worth every second of anxiousness to get there. It's game on. Second update. I'm finally ready to discuss what happened at Ryan's birthday dinner. Sorry for the delay. I needed a mental health day after all of this stress. Additionally, my Wi-Fi has been acting up because my neighbor grabbed my password and presumably downloaded the entire internet. Where have we left off? Right, me, sitting at Ryan's dinner table with his family, while he worried about what I could say. So there I was, surrounded by Ryan's folks. His parents are Tina and Ralph. His sister, Kayla. His grandmother. And two relatives whose names I constantly mix up. Tina's wonderful pot roast, those buttery mashed potatoes I'd literally dreamed about, and a fancy salad that no one was going to eat but everyone would pretend to like. The first 20 minutes were just unpleasant. Ryan kept trying to manage the conversation while giving me warning glances. I simply smiled and passed the bread rolls. I enjoyed the way his left eye twitched whenever I opened my mouth. Petty? Maybe. Satisfying? Absolutely. Tina kept the conversation going, bless her. She inquired about my family, job, and the usual small conversation. Then she remarked how proud everyone was of Ryan's great promotion. I almost choked on my water. I looked at Ryan, whose face had turned the same shade as the beets on the table. Ryan jumped in, discussing how his team was crushing their goals and how his boss was essentially grooming him for senior management. I simply nodded along, watching him burrow deeper with each syllable. Then Ralph, who has always been the quiet kind, suddenly inquired about the Johnson account. Ryan had apparently been informing his father about a large deal he was reportedly leading. Ryan's response was so ambiguous that it could have been a horoscope. Something about strategic pivoting and utilizing core competencies. It literally meant nothing. His sister, Kayla, attracted my attention across the table. She's always been the suspicious one in the family, the sort who Googles facts during disagreements and calls others out on their lies. She raised an eyebrow at me. Like, is he serious right now? That's when Tina mentioned the future. She inquired about our major announcement and whether it had anything to do with us taking the next step. Ryan nearly dropped his fork and murmured something about how it was not the appropriate time to address it. His grandmother, who has no filter and is my absolute favorite person in his family, cut in. So, are you two moving in together or what? Because Ryan said you were looking at apartments together. Again, new to me? The furthest we had gotten in that conversation was my remarking, maybe we should think about combining our Netflix accounts to save money. Ryan sought to redirect the subject back to himself, mentioning how his boss had given him a company card for business spending. I could not help myself. I was curious. What kind of expenses are you authorized to approve? He mumbled something about client dinners and team outings. At that point, I casually mentioned, "Oh, speaking of dinners, Ryan took me to this amazing restaurant last week. What was it called again, honey? The one where you met up with Leonard and Pablo?" The color on his face drained faster than my phone battery on TikTok. Seriously, my phone can't take more than 20 minutes of browsing without dying. Anyone else? Before he could reply, the doorbell rang. Perfect timing. Tina went to answer it, and I could hear her delight. "Oh, Cody? What a surprise." Ryan looked like he was about to pass out. Cody strolled in, dressed professionally in a button-up shirt and holding a folder. He apologized for disturbing Ryan's birthday meal, but he had some work documents that Ryan wanted to sign right away on Monday morning. Tina, the perfect host, quickly offered him to join us for dessert later. Ryan attempted to lead Cody to the front door, but Ralph demanded they handle work right there at the table. Since we're all family here. Cody sat in the empty chair beside me, which I had carefully saved. NGL. Ryan gripped his fork so tightly that I thought it may bend. That's when Ralph asked Cody how the big presentation went. The one Ryan appeared to be leading. Cody seemed perplexed for a second. He eventually caught on. He looked at me, then at Ryan. And I could see him reaching a decision. Cody stated that the presentation went well. However, they added that their supervisor had delivered it, with Ryan and the crew offering assistance. Ralph was perplexed and responded, "That's not how Ryan described it." I jumped in, because I'm messy like that, and asked Cody about Ryan's promotion. Cody seemed so uncomfortable, torn between loyalty to a coworker and not wanting to lie to an entire family. He fidgeted with his napkin and made some vague remarks about company restructuring. Ryan interjected with a phony laugh and attempted to change the conversation to sports or something. But his sister wouldn't have it. She asked Cody directly what Ryan's current title was. The hush that followed was like the moment you drop something in a public restroom. Everybody hears it. Nobody wants to admit it. Cody looked at Ryan, who was silently imploring through his eyes. Then at me. I nodded slightly. He cleared his throat and explained that Ryan was an administrative assistant in the marketing department. The silence. Ralph lowered his fork gently. His grandmother made a small sound. Kayla said something that sounded suspiciously like I knew it. Ryan quickly entered damage control mode. Cody expressed confusion. That he had several duties. That was complicated. But the dam had cracked. His relatives began asking him specific questions, which he couldn't avoid. When did you get promoted? He had not. Why did you say you had a team? He did not. What about that corner office you mentioned? Also fictitious. Ryan's stories became more detailed with each query. He kept looking at me, as if this was my fault. This simply increased my will to let everything out. Tina, bless her heart, tried to smooth things out. She advised we all have some cake and talk about brighter topics. Kayla questioned me about the restaurant I mentioned earlier as she went to the kitchen to get it. This was my moment. I took a big breath before telling them everything. Ryan invited me to meet his pals. How he had belittled me throughout supper. How he abandoned me in front of everyone and walked away, leaving me with a $347 bill I couldn't afford. Ryan tried to interrupt numerous times, but his father cut him off with a glare I'd never seen before. Pure disappointment. Ryan's defense? That I was exaggerating and playing the victim. I had embarrassed him in front of his coworkers by not fitting in. Leaving me with the bill was teaching me financial responsibility. His grandmother literally snorted at the last one. Cody, who had been quiet for most of this, eventually piped up. He confirmed my story. He also mentioned that Ryan had been bragging to coworkers about how he had put me in my place. He even took out his phone and showed Pablo's texts. Everyone, get your receipts. They were discussing what had transpired. Tina returned with the cake just as Ryan attempted to paint himself as the victim. She put it down and questioned, "What did I miss?" Nobody talked for a time. Then Ryan's father said, very gently, "We need to have a family discussion about honesty." Ryan erupted. Like a full-blown anger tantrum. He accused me of inciting his family against him, called Cody a traitor, and said that everyone was simply jealous of his accomplishment. What is success? He knocked over his water glass, pointed toward me, and shouted, "A girl like you should be grateful I even bothered with you." His mother gasped. His grandmother muttered something that I'm sure was old folks swearing. His sister only shook her head, as if she wasn't surprised. I remained calm and said, "The only thing I'm grateful for is finally seeing who you really are." Ryan stormed out, slamming the door so forcefully that one of Tina's ornamental plates flew off the wall and fractured. The aftermath was very quiet. Tina apologized to me around 50 times. Ralph appeared exhausted and dejected. Kayla helped mop up the spilled water. Cody apologized for his role in the unpleasantness. But he stated he couldn't stand by and let Ryan lie to everyone. The oddest thing happened. Instead of asking me to leave, they insisted that I stay for dessert. We all sat there. Ryan's ex-girlfriend, co-workers, and family, eating birthday cake, without the birthday boy. In any other context, it would have been the most uncomfortable thing ever. However, it wasn't. After the cake, I helped Tina clean up the kitchen. She kept apologizing, claiming she had no idea Ryan was lying about so much. She appeared really heartbroken. Not simply about what he'd done to me, but about who her son had become. I felt awful for her, to be honest. No parent wants to discover their child is, well, it's kind of bad. She calmly inquired if there had been any previous indicators. And I admitted that looking back, there were warning signs I had overlooked. Because I wanted to think the best of him. Ryan's dad grabbed me aside as I was about to leave. He praised me for being honest, and he apologized for what his kid had done. He appeared despondent, as if he was trying to find out what went wrong with his upbringing. I assured him it was not their fault. Ryan had made his own decisions. Cody volunteered to take me to my car, perhaps understanding that I needed a moment to comprehend things. As we proceeded down the road, he remarked that Ryan had been having troubles at work for several months. Taking credit for others' ideas. Lying about his contributions. Even fabricating client emails. He was on his final warning before possible termination. Ryan's intense need to appear successful made a strange kind of logic. His entire persona was based around this fabricated appearance of prosperity and status. When I considered it that way, I almost felt bad for him. Almost. I thanked Cody for supporting me and drove home. In a strange sense of emotional fatigue coupled with relief. Like when you finally remove an uncomfortable bra at the end of the day. Sorry for the strange analogy, but you understand what I mean. When I came home, I saw 3 missed calls from Vanessa requesting updates. I was going to call her back when my phone vibrated with a text message from Ryan. You've ruined everything. This isn't over. I did not respond. I just blocked his number and made myself some tea. I should have been terrified or upset. But really? I just felt exhausted. And even a little proud of myself for standing up to him. I assumed that was the end of it. I actually did. But what about this morning? My phone blew up with 13 missed calls from Ryan's mother, his sister, Cody. There were several numbers I didn't recognize. Something had occurred overnight. Based on the increasingly agitated voicemails, Ryan had totally lost it. Last update. I'm now ready to explain the 13 missed calls. Thank you for your patience as I processed all that happened. I apologize for the delay. My laptop chose to perform an unexpected 4-hour update precisely when I sat down to write this. So where were we? Right. I awoke on Sunday morning after the birthday dinner debacle to discover my phone flooded with calls from Ryan's family and Cody. At first, I believed someone had died or something. My stomach dropped as I scrolled through the notifications. Tina missed 5 calls. Kayla contributes 3. Cody sent 2. 3 numbers I didn't recognize. I called Tina back first. She seemed the most concerned based on her voicemails, which were simply variations of Sabrina, please call me as soon as you can. She answered the first call, sounding weary. Ryan reportedly stormed out of the birthday meal. He'd had a wild night. He arrived at his ex-girlfriend's residence at 2 a.m. Drunk and raving about how I had ruined his life. The ex, who I didn't even know existed, was understandably frightened and contacted Kayla, who had to go get him. But that was not all. Ryan had also spent the night sending bizarre messages to almost everyone we knew. He texted Cody and threatened to ruin him at work. LOL. Good luck doing that when you're about to be fired. He wrote a long, meandering update on Facebook about being surrounded by snakes, and how people would regret betraying him. Most concerning. He sent my address as a private message to his friend Pablo. He threatened to make me pay for humiliating him. Pablo, who evidently has a moral compass. I immediately called Tina and forwarded the message. That is why she was so desperate to contact me. I was sitting on my couch, in my ratty old jammies, hair still in yesterday's sloppy bun. Trying to comprehend all of this information while Tina apologized about 50 times for her son's actions. I should have been afraid, I suppose. But really, I just felt exhausted. For example, if your phone has been stuck at 1% battery for several hours, just waiting for it to die so you may charge it and proceed. Tina insisted on coming over to make sure I was fine. Which was extremely sweet. However, it also caused me to stress and tidy my apartment. Nothing pushes you to clean up like knowing someone's mother is about to see your living environment, am I right? I was practically flinging dirty stuff into my closet and cleaning hardened toothpaste off the bathroom sink. My doorbell rang. But it wasn't only Tina. Kayla was also with her. They brought coffee and some small pastries from the bakery near their house. Which, to be honest, is probably what I miss the most about being with Ryan. We sat at my modest kitchen table, with the unsteady leg that I've been wanting to mend for months, and they told me about Ryan's position. According to Kayla, Ryan has previously lied about his life. In college, he reportedly told everyone he was on the baseball team, when he was actually cut at tryouts. He once claimed to be speaking with a popular girl, who didn't know who he was. He had a consistent practice of inventing this imaginary version of himself, one that was more prosperous, popular, and had more of everything. While they talked, my phone kept vibrating with texts from friends who had witnessed Ryan's social media meltdown. Vanessa was freaking out, wanting to come over with her boyfriend, who does kickboxing, just in case. She watches way too many crime series, I swear. My group chat was exploding with confusing messages about Ryan's theatrical subtweets. That's when the doorbell rang again. I literally froze. I wonder whether it was Ryan? Kayla peered through the slats and took a deep breath. It was Cody. Ryan had apparently been blowing up his phone all morning too. Cody wanted to warn me in person, since Ryan mentioned paying me a visit. So here we all were, me, Ryan's mother, his sister, his coworker, sitting in my living room on a Sunday morning, trying to find out what to do about this man-child's tantrum, because he was caught in his lies. If things weren't so stressful, that would have been hilarious. Imagine conveying this situation to someone who wasn't present. Cody added that their supervisor was already aware of Ryan's social media outburst. Someone took a screenshot and forwarded it. Monday at work was going to be interesting. Kayla was concerned Ryan may do something stupid if he lost his job, on top of everything else. That's when the doorbell rang again. This time, it was the building manager, looking quite weird. Ryan had apparently been downstairs causing a scene in the lobby. I demand to be led up to my flat. The manager had refused, bless him, and threatened to call the cops. At that point, Ryan stormed off. I got yelled at for lying, loud enough for everyone on the first floor to hear. Tina appeared devastated. She kept apologizing, saying she didn't know what went wrong with him. I felt bad for her. Imagine finding your adult son is essentially a living red flag. Kayla was more practical, advising that I document everything in case Ryan's actions escalated. We were all sitting there, trying to figure out what to do. My phone buzzed with a notification. Ryan tagged me in an Instagram story, against my better judgment, and everyone in the room warning me not to look. I opened it. It was a photo of me from early on in our relationship, sleeping on his couch, mouth open. Captioned, "Miss Perfect who ruined my birthday isn't so perfect. A girl like you should be grateful that anyone took pictures of you at all." As if that was his grand revenge, a slightly unflattering snapshot taken 2 years ago. I genuinely laughed out loud. Tina wasn't anticipating this reaction. But really? If this was the worst he could do? I was going to be okay. Just as we were considering the next step, there was a tremendous beating on the door. We all jumped. Then we heard Ryan's voice, slurring slightly. "I know you're in there, open the door." Cody quickly jumped up, as if he were going to face Ryan. Which was nice, but unneeded. I was already calling the building's security guard. The advantages of a little more expensive apartment building. Ryan continued hitting and yelling. And I could hear my neighbor's door open as she came outside to check what was going on. By the time security arrived, Ryan had moved on to kicking the door. The security guard did not screw around. He warned Ryan to leave or he would contact the cops. There was some back and forth that I couldn't fully understand. Then came quiet. The security gently knocked and informed me that Ryan had left the building. But I was still in the parking lot, possibly waiting. Tina felt mortified. She insisted on going down and dealing with her son herself. And honestly, I was delighted to allow her. She was so distraught that Ryan's father, Ralph, had to come and pick them both up. The scenario was sad. After they went, Cody and I sat on my couch in startled quiet for a while. He eventually broke it by asking, "Do you have any alcohol?" Which seemed like an appropriate reaction to the morning we'd experienced. We shared a bottle of wine I had saved for a special occasion, and this certainly counted. Cody left in the late afternoon, and I was emotionally weary. Vanessa came over and spent the night, just in case Ryan decides to make another appearance. He didn't, fortunately. We ordered pizza, watched horrible reality TV, and tried to understand how chaotic my life had become. The following weeks were an adjustment period. Ryan was sacked from his work after failing to show up for 3 days, sending disrespectful emails to multiple coworkers. He temporarily went back in with his parents. I only know this because Kayla and I have remained in touch. She's actually pretty cool. We get coffee occasionally. Ryan attempted to call me several times, leaving voicemails ranging from angry, tearful, strangely nostalgic. I preserved them all, just in case. However, he never responded. He made a couple bogus Instagram accounts to contact me, but they were so clearly him. Who else would type, "You're making a big mistake," with that spelling error? I immediately blocked them. The strangest thing was running into him at Target, approximately a month later. I was in the home area, looking for shower curtains. Suddenly, he appeared, holding a package of socks. And it looked like he hadn't slept in days. We established eye contact. Just for a second, I was concerned that he would cause a scene. Instead, he simply turned around and went away. He left his shopping cart right in the aisle. It was 3 months ago now. Ryan eventually relocated to his uncle's home in another state. According to Tina, who continues to send me holiday cards. It's lovely but awkward. His social media has been unusually silent. Kayla believes his parents have finally cut him off financially, until he receives therapy. As for me, I'm doing very well, actually. My apartment now seems like mine again. I've changed the furnishings and replaced the items that reminded me of Ryan. The oddest effect of all this could be my surprising friendship with Cody. We're not dating or anything, though Vanessa is still working to make that happen. But we have lunch occasionally. And text about ridiculous TikTok videos. It's good having someone who witnessed the entire Ryan story. And knows why I'm having trust issues the size of Texas. Looking back on everything, I'm not angry anymore. Well, not just angry. I'm also weirdly grateful. Not for dating Ryan. Certainly not that. But to discover who he truly was, before things progressed further. Imagine if I had moved in with him. Shudder. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.